Hello everyone, this is LazyDev, your iOS development journey companion. So on this episode of building a generic networking layer in iOS Swift, this is where we actually do the implementation. So in the previous episode, I explained the entire overview of the project and what we are to achieve by the end. So yeah, if you are here, grab your laptop, open Xcode, and let's start coding. Yeah, it's okay. So to start, let's create a new Xcode project. Okay, so we create a new Xcode project. I'm actually not good in giving names though, but in this I'll try and give a nice name. So let's say generic network manager. Yeah, sure. And in this tutorial, you will be using Swift UI, but you're okay to use UI kit if you are familiar with that. So yeah, in this tutorial we'll be using Swift UI. So let's continue. Okay, so create a new project. Yeah, okay, so let's go back to this article. So I actually did a whole article on this. Yeah, I'll put the link in the description so you can can go and check the article on Medium. Yeah, so like I explained earlier in the first episode, so now we will do the entire implementation, and I explained that to do this we actually need a protocol. We actually need a protocol that in this protocol we have all our properties. So we have our URL, the HTTP method, then the boolean to check if we are sending a query params or a body params, then our headers. Yeah, so let's go back to Xcode. So if I can run you through that, you can see that. So with the URL, we all know what a URL is. So you need to construct a URL, doing it in a generic form. So the same request, you can use the same request with any URL, any endpoint, matching any endpoint. And we have a HTTP method, so you just need to specify the HTTP method. Then with the boolean, you can specify whether you are sending a query params or a body params. Then your headers too, you can specify the headers attached to that request. Yeah, so let's go back to Xcode. Then I don't think we need this now, so kick it out now. Yeah, so let's create a new file. Create a new Swift file, and we can name it let's say manager. Yeah, let's say manager. Okay, so in this manager, this is where we actually create a protocol. We create the protocol, we create the enums. So we actually need an enum for the endpoints. So we create the protocol and an enum, and this enum will implement a protocol. So in the protocol, we have, like I said, we have the four properties. We have the URL, the HTTP method, and the boolean, and our headers. So yeah, let's go ahead and first create our protocol. So create our protocol. So a request, give it a name. This I tried. I'm actually not good at naming names, but for the purpose of this, I need to really try and give very distinct and clear names. Yeah, so like I said, you will we start creating our properties for the protocol. So we first need a URL, which will be of a type URL, and it will be a get property. Then we have you create a HTTP method too, which will also be of a type HTTP method. So we first need to import combine. Actually be using combine, but you are free to use any network framework you are okay with. Yeah, so with the type HTTP method, you actually need to create. So we can also create an enum for the type of HTTP method. So you create an enum, say HTTP method, and it will be of a type string. It will return a string. Not be of a type, it will return a string. Sorry. So you know all the HTTP methods we have. So you can have get. So get, then you actually return the string gets, and have another case for our posts. Have the string posts. Yeah, sure. So now we've constructed our enum for the HTTP, and it will also be a get. Then move on to our next property, which will be the JSON. So to be a JSON, so it's JSON encoder, which, like I said, is a type. It's a boolean, also a get. Then our headers, which, as you know, headers are always dictionaries. So you always have the key and the value. So the key string was a string, and our value will also be a string. But then we need to make it optional, because some wouldn't require headers. Some requests wouldn't require headers, so you need to make it optional. Yeah. So now we've created our protocol, our request protocol. So from here, I think then we should go back. I think there's something I needed to do before getting here. So in this tutorial, we'll actually be using the JSON placeholder API. We'll be using the JSON placeholder API. It's a free API that you can use for your try project, and you can check it out. So we will actually be using the JSON API, and we'll be posting, and we'll fetch, then we will post. So that is when we are sending the body params. Then we will fetch all. So a request without any params, then we will search for specific data. That is where we can use the query params for a specific data. So that is where we'll be using the query params. So they are informs. Our request will be informs. It's just because we are creating a generic request manager, would want to test all instances. Yeah, so I actually chose this JSON placeholder, which is a free API that we can work with. So yeah, and I think you can go to their site and check. Yeah, so this is it. So you can see, you can post, you can post, retrieve comments, retrieve posts, create users, and also fetch the users. Yeah, so in our case, we'll be using the get to get all posts, then get particular posts, then also post yeah. So yeah, let's go back to Xcode. So I think now we have our protocol. The next thing is to create our endpoint enum. Yeah, so the next thing to do now is to create our endpoint enum. And so with this endpoint enum, that is what actually we'll be using in the generic request manager. So previously you would be supplying the URL and the HTTP and the headers to the request. So you could have multiple requests, then you'll be supplying them. So for every request, you need to create a network function, a request function. So with the help of this endpoint enum, we could specify with just enum. So with just the endpoints, you specify the endpoints, then the function would itself pick the endpoints URL, to pick the headers, it will specify. So when you, with the boolean, when you specify whether it's JSON encoded or not, it will by itself specify what type of params you are sending. The types of param, I don't mean the data, but whether it's a body params or a JSON, a body params or a query params, sorry. And if it's not a params at all, if you are not sending any parameter at all, yeah. So let's move on and create. Okay, I'm actually doing all this in one file, but for the purpose of this, I just want to explain. I just want to keep everything here so you could see everything. So I'm doing everything in just one file. Yeah, so I'll be doing everything in just. Now that we have our request, so now the next thing is to create our endpoints enum. So here is where we need to specify all the endpoints we will be using in the project. So if you have any project, all the endpoints that you'll be using, you need to create an enum for all of them. So yeah, let's go ahead and start creating our endpoints enum. So yeah, so enum, so endpoints enum. Don't mind me. Yeah, so we first need a case. So in our case, so we'll be fetching users, we'll be creating posts. We fetch users, we fetch posts, and we'll create posts. So we fetch users. So we're using the users endpoints to fetch all users. Then we will fetch all posts to we fetch users. So we fetch one particular user. Yeah, sorry, you fetch one particular because you want to use the query param. So you use that one to search one particular user. So you search user, you will fetch all posts and also create a post. Yeah. So the first one, you search for a user. So you say, okay, so let's make it a plural. Let's say user. Then you create a post. So I'm just saying create. Yeah. So we'll just be using just 3 endpoints for this tutorial. Yeah. So now that we've created our endpoints in them, we need to implement our request, and we need this endpoint to extend our request. So we go on and create an extension on the endpoints, which will then implement the requests. Yeah, so they should definitely cry. Yeah, sure. So it will definitely cry. Yeah. So like I said, we will be using the JSON placeholder API, and in here we need to specify the base URL and the endpoint. So this is actually where we specify the URL, the complete URL. So the complete URL will consist of the base and the endpoint. So let's go on. So to do this, we can also create a strat. This is actually long, but let's follow along. This is how I like doing mine. But if you have any easier way to, you are free to jump. Yeah, so you can say API URL. API URL. So in this, then we create a property. So for our endpoint, matching our endpoint, we say a user. Then we can also create another endpoint to this is actually long. I know it's long, but that's how I like doing my, but you can use a shortcut to do it. So I actually always want to create a class. So let's say class endpoint, and in this I'll have my base URL. Yes, base URL, it's actually a let because it will never. And so with this base URL, so replace this URL from the JSON placeholder. I got it from the JSON placeholder. Yeah. Then also we move on to, so we can say requested URL, it should be of a type URL. Yeah. Then you move on, you You move on and we initialize. You bring in an initializer. Bring in an initializer where you have a URI, then which will be of a type string. Yes, so anytime you call this function, it will require the URI. Yeah, so in this okay, sorry. Yeah, so now we have our let URL string, which is the base URL, plus a URI that you will provide whenever you call the function. Yes, so you need to guard let. So now this is where you are actually getting a URL. So now we have this URL, which comprises of the base and the endpoints that anytime you call this class that you provide it, so it will concatenate and give you your URL. But then you need to first unwrap with a guard. So let's say guard let's URL, which is equals to this URL string. So you put it in the URL because you are returning the URL. Put it in the URL, so which will take a string, and this string is a URL string. Yeah. Then else return, let's say, fatal error. This will pass in invalid URL. Yeah. So here, then we can return. So this requested URL. Yeah. Actually not getting the name. Yeah. So that would be a URL. This is actually long though, but this is how I like doing it. Actually, there's a more simpler way, but I want you to understand how you can construct the URL. So now we have our class, endpoint class. So the next thing to actually wanted to do to construct the endpoint here, so I will supply the endpoint to the base URL here, but then we can forgo this and use our class straight and URL. So in here we will return the URL with the endpoint, so the base URL with the endpoint. So this our class. Actually, anytime you call this class, you need to supply the endpoint. Yeah, so let's do a switch over the endpoint. So self, let me align my code. Okay, so self, yeah, so then we can have our cases. So the first one, so let's say create. Yeah, so this, then we return our class, which is the endpoint. endpoint, then it will take the string which is the endpoint. So actually the endpoint then dot the requested URL. Yeah, sure. So actually the create in which you are creating the post and the post, they all use the same endpoint. So if you check the JSON, let's check the JSON placeholder from the website. You can see so from the website you can see, so this when we are getting our post, and this a post, this when you are creating a post. So they all use the same endpoint. So with that you will be returning the same endpoint for them. So where's the project? Okay, sorry. So yeah, we are returning this as in when we are creating the post. Then when you are fetching a particular user, use the user in then here I think it's users. Let me be sure. Yes, users. Yeah, you can check from their website is users. Then the last endpoint. So actually using 3 endpoints. So this will be the post. This when we are fetching our posts. Yeah, so this and this, you can see that they all use the same endpoint. So yeah, so now we are done constructing our URL. So the next thing will be the HTTP method. So the same way we can use, we will be using a switch on the endpoints. Yeah, so I think the create is a post, so that one will return a post. Then this, let's actually combine the two because they're returning the same thing. They are all fetching, so they are returning gets method. Yeah, so we are done with our HTTP method too. So I think the next thing will be the JSON encoder, which we are basically going to return either true or false. Yeah, so when we are creating, you don't need to send, so that will return false. Yeah, so no, this rather will be true. Yeah, then these two again we can combine them, then they will return false. Yeah, so meaning this guy, because we are sending a body params, this guy when we are creating a post, we are usually sending a body param. So this meaning, so it's this to turn true, meaning we are sending a body params, but with these ones we are not sending body params. With fetching the user, we are using the query param. By fetching our post, we are not sending any params at all, non-params request here. So we are done with this one too. The next thing will be the headers. So same way we use a switch. Yeah, so in here, yeah, so the switch, and in this you are returning dictionary, like you know already in the dictionary. So the key will be a string. Sorry, so the key a string, and I think it's of a type accept. Let's check on the website. accept. This application, accept application slash the JSON. Yeah, so this could be the same, but the key will change. The key is content type. Content type, yes. So it is to specify the endpoint and the headers. Yeah, so with this now, I think we've created the endpoint enum for the endpoint, and the next step is where we actually be creating a network manager. So I think this is where we will end the episode 2. So let's go to the overview of what we've been able to achieve in this episode 2. So we created the protocol and the HTTP. We created a request protocol specifically, and this protocol is being implemented by our enum endpoint enum. So this endpoint enum is actually what we'll be using in our request manager. So yeah, thank you for being here, and be sure to check the next episode. The next episode is where you actually be doing the request itself, then you trying to implement the request to in the view model, and try to show something on the simulator. So yeah, thank you, and be sure to subscribe to this channel. uh, hit the subscribe button, and look out for the next episode. Thank you.